we're not living in reality. We're living in the model of reality we're generating in our head,
Mm-hmm.
and then treating it as if it's real, and it's not.
Hello and welcome to the Move the Chains podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Munsey. Look, as an entrepreneur, a best-selling author, performance coach, and keynote speaker, I help athletes, executives, and leaders around the world win the mental game in order to take the next steps towards success. Every week here on the Move the Chains podcast, I'll bring you the best tools and tips to achieve your big dreams, as well as bring you interviews with some of the world's most successful people so that we can learn how they've managed to push through obstacles and achieve their dreams as well. Look, if you're interested in and committed to leveling up, you're going to love today's episode with Jeff Munn. Jeff focuses most of his work on founders. Specifically, the bio says Jeff focuses on helping founders get out of their own way so they can create with ease, focus, and purpose. But as Jeff and I have been talking before we hit record, and as you're probably well aware if you're a listener to this show, high performance, the secrets or the rules of high performance don't apply to any specific endeavor. It doesn't matter if you're a founder, if you're an athlete, if you're a person who wants to be a better parent, you want to be a better spouse, if you want to just level up your, the way that you move through life, you're going to love what Jeff has to say about decision making and staying consistent. So his version of Move the Chains is pick now. So Jeff, with all that said, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ryan. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you and agree. There's just so much overlap in the way that you work with people and the way that I work with people, maybe different people, but I think that that path is really consistent, and I'm looking forward to talking with you about it.
So let's start with, how you got to where you are now, and, how would you describe what it is that you do?
So I'll answer the second question first. I mostly play with people's heads. And what I mean by that is, one of the things that I find with the people that I work with is the thing that gets in their way the most is things that they think are true about themselves in the world that actually aren't true. And so if I can get at that from the perspective of, hey, your worldview is a little bit off, then it's like, oh, from that place, then like, if this is what's true rather than this, if this larger possibility is true rather than this smaller one, then what are the habits and systems and things that I can put into place day after day after day to get there? I started out a law firm lawyer. I had a 30-ish year corporate career, a law firm, a consulting firm. Last 5 years was at Fidelity Investments in Boston, and went out on my own as a coach in 2016. And I didn't do that voluntarily. I mean, I had been thinking about doing it for a long time, but I was laid off. My boss and I were let go in a corporate restructuring on the same day. August 2nd, 2016. I will always remember that day. But, I initially resisted the idea of going out on my own as a coach. I thought I wasn't ready. I thought I couldn't make a living at it. So I made these excuses and tried to find another job and tried to do consulting. And then that's when I really discovered the power of I don't actually get anywhere until I totally commit. And I call that commitment pick now. So it's like I was trying to preserve my options, but I wasn't doing any of them well. And when I picked now and when I focused on the one thing, that's when things started to happen.
Nice. So when you introduce the pick now tool or framework to people that you work with, how do you explain it? How do you teach it? As I look through your website, I see so many things that I want to dive into, but I don't want to do it sporadically. I'd love to follow your process if you have one.
Yeah. I mean, in a way, it's as simple as the words. Like every entrepreneur that I talk with, there is something they've been putting off. There's something that they don't even want to think about. There's something that they know They already know they need to do it. It's not like I need to figure out, who my vendor for such and such is going to be. It's like, no, I need to fire my CFO and I need to do it today. And they've been putting it off and think, I need a replacement lined up, and I need to figure out what to tell my team. And if I only gave him like 3 more months and was like really clear on what I wanted, maybe this could work out. It's like, no, you just need to do it. You just need to pick now. And everything you're looking for, whether that's purpose or direction or clarity, is actually on the other side of that decision. You're never going to get it before you make the decision. You have to decide without knowing, because you can never know how things are going to work out. But I see people over and over again trying to like mentally figure it out before making the decision. And so they never do it.
There's 2 things there I'd love to dive into. One is you actually have this on your website. You talk about action creates clarity, not the other way around. And you just, you gave a great example of it there. Why do we think we need clarity before action?
Because we're scared. I mean, we think being scared is a sign that something's wrong. Mm-hmm. It's like, I'm scared, so I must not be ready yet. And actually, like the analogy that I like to use is, have you ever been skydiving?
I have not.
I haven't either, but I use it as an analogy anyway. I hope to someday. But the process of skydiving, like you check the parachute and you get everything packed in, and you check your backup chute and you've got the pack on, and you're standing at the door of the plane. The door is open. You've done everything you can do, and the time has come to jump. Are you scared? Hell yes, because the only thing left is to jump. And so we think that being scared is a sign that we're not prepared. Being scared is what shows up actually right before the time to do it. Being scared is actually a sign, I think, that you've already done everything you can, and the time has come to jump. And I see people think that it's the opposite, but I'm not scared when I'm in prep mode. I'm only scared when I'm standing at the door of the plane.
Right. I think it could be, there's an interesting maybe dichotomy there where I don't want people to mistake that for removing necessary preparations. And and to your point, absolutely. When we're focused on doing those things, that's what we're thinking about.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, as you're coaching people, how do you get them to see the difference between, let's say, necessary preparation, and then when does it cross the line and become procrastination, even like masturbation type, mental masturbation type, busyness? Yeah.
I think that's a great point. I think the question that I would ask is, do you know you need to do this? And is there anything else that you could reasonably do to prepare? Because if there is that preparation, by all means, do it. I'm not saying don't prepare. I'm saying when you get to that point of like, oh, I just want to double check the numbers one more time, or I just want to see if, I heard about a potential applicant for this position. Maybe I should check with him before it's like, no, that's too much. You're ready. So, but yeah, great point. I'm not, this is not about impulsivity. Right. in any, and most of the people that I coach are not impulsive people. That's not their challenge.
I gotcha. So if we go back to, as you're talking through, the Pick Now tool, one of the other things I wanted to kind of discuss more, you gave the example of the person, maybe a CEO or a founder who knows they need to fire their CFO, but they'd rather focus on the conversation about a vendor or whatever those things might be.
Yeah.
And I, again, as we said in the intro, I think that's a great example that, like, while we use founder and business decisions as the example, you see a very similar trend in all humans, regardless,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
Why do we ignore the things that we know we most need to address?
I mean, again, I think it comes back to this idea of like discomfort and uncertainty.
Mm-hmm.
I just recorded my own. I'm starting my own podcast. Ryan, maybe you can come on at some point. I think it'd be we can continue this conversation, right? And one of the things that I talk about on that podcast episode is leaving my first wife. Mm. And so there were so many things around that. Like I knew I needed to do it, but it was going to upend my family. It was going to make my relationship with my, at the time, 5-year-old daughter, it's like, what was it going to do that? There were all of these questions that I had. So on the one hand, I knew, and it was like, I was just scared from all the uncertainty. And I think there's, whatever kind of decision that you're talking about, those kind of things can show up. It can sound really cavalier to say, well, just do it. But the fear is real.
Right.
There's no question about it. And the way that I couldn't work out all of that in advance, I couldn't create, other than in my own head, mm-hmm. I couldn't create a good relationship with my daughter before my marriage split up. There was no way to do that except after. Mm-hmm. And all of these things are things that you figure out after. You just start.
So really, it's a great point. And obviously it's very true. As you work with your clients and the people mm-hmm. who help, what are some of maybe it's questions that you ask them, maybe it's thought processes. How do you get them, I hate to say more comfortable or to be more accepting of uncertainty or the change, but that's kind of what you're doing. Like, how do you get them to take the steps that they know they need to take, no matter how hard they might be?
Yeah. It's this really interesting in-between place, right? And I know, Ryan, you're working with, athletes who may have big goals. As an example, that's one type of person you may work with. I'm working with business people who might have big goals. And so you're trying to hold both. And so on the one hand, what's this bigger goal? On the other hand, what are the kinds of habits and processes and like little granular things that you need to do today? Like that person who's selling their company in 5 years, what are they doing today so that they get there? Mm-hmm. And that can be a way to reframe some of this. Oh yeah, I was working with a founder a couple of weeks ago and we didn't even talk about this, but shortly after we started working together, he started working out every morning. He hadn't been taking care of himself. And it was one of those like linchpin habits that if you start doing this, then the other things start falling in place and the other things start falling in place and the other things start falling in place. So that's one thing. And then you can experiment with levels of discomfort. It's like, okay, I recognize you're not going to fire the CFO today, and that feels totally overwhelming to you right now. But what's a small step toward that you can take? And do that and see what happens. And then do the next little thing and see what happens. So you can, sometimes it's a big thing and it's all or nothing. But most of the time it's like, oh, there's a little preliminary thing that I can do that's not continuing to plan and process. It's actually moving the ball forward, yep. But it's not the whole thing.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think you're talking about finding the smallest step.
Yeah.
The minimum viable product in business speak. And
yeah. A little bit of that. Sure.
Action begets action. And as soon as you start rolling it, the hope is that you can continue. If we go back to, some of the decision-making stuff, one of the other, it's a great quote you have on your site, fear disguises itself as prudence. And I touched on this a little bit with the preparation and the skydiving analogy, but how do you help your folks balance the gathering of information
Mm-hmm.
with when it's time to take action. Because I know this, you said, you used to be that guy who felt like more analysis would lead to better decisions.
Oh, totally.
But it did.
I was a lawyer, for God's sake.
Right.
We're paid to analyze.
How did you personally overcome that desire or maybe preference pattern for more analysis, and how are you helping others get past that?
Boy, that's such a great question, Ryan. And I haven't given it a lot of thought, to be honest. I know there was some point where, and I can't tell you exactly when, where I saw it didn't work.
Explain that.
Like I saw that the analysis actually wasn't helpful.
Okay.
That it wasn't getting me any more information.
Yeah.
It wasn't getting me any more clarity. Mm-hmm. Like one of my favorite things is, the pro-con list when you're making a decision. Mm-hmm. I mean, most people have gone through the process of making a pro-con list.
Yep.
Did it actually make the decision?
No.
Like most of the time there's a whole list of pros and a whole list of cons, and maybe the con list is actually longer, but there's something that's like, I'm going to do it anyway. Like, I'm scared, but I'm going to do it. Like, it doesn't actually, you've made the decision, and then you look for information to justify the decision to make it feel safe.
Yep.
Instead of just like, well, what if we just went with our gut, went with our heart, went with our inner knowing, whatever you want to call it,
sure,
and then figure it out after the fact. And I think, maybe as I think back to like thinking about, one of the decisions I dealt with early in my career was I was on the track to become a partner at this law firm. So I was getting good reviews. They liked my work. I was working my ass off, but I had a future there.
Yeah.
And I got really interested in a consulting firm. I would be doing similar work, but not the same work. It was a larger organization. There was an opportunity to continue to my whole career has been about, where can I learn and grow next? And that was really exciting to me. Now, financially, it didn't make sense. If I had stayed at the law firm, I would have made a lot more money, mm-hmm. and I would have been miserable. Mm-hmm. And so if you look at the pro-con list, I probably would have stayed with the law firm.
Right.
But I took the leap. I mean, I was 30, I think, when I did that.
Right.
Yeah. Did I answer? I wandered around a little bit. Did I answer your question?
You did. And I mean, I'm just in the brief time that we've been talking and kind of know each other now. I mean, your life has been filled with several calm inflection points and major decisions. I can't help but believe that those experiences are helping you guide others through similar, complex decisions.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the things that I've learned is I might not know exactly what's on the other side of that decision. There's no real way to know that. Yeah. But every time I've trusted my gut, it's worked out.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think through, I think that would be true for the most part for me. I think if I think about founders and not just founders, but let's say parents or mm-hmm. as if you're a 22-year-old kid straight out of college and you want to go with your gut, there's not a lot of, we'll say, collateral impact, right? If you're a parent, decisions are going to impact your spouse, your children. If you're a founder, going with your gut has the potential to, impact all of your employees. And
exactly,
they depend on you for, their living wages, then it's their families as well. And so I would have to think that, and I've seen this in my experience, is that as you go, not necessarily up with age, but as you go up in, we'll call it collateral impact. Yeah,
like breadth of responsibilities and stuff. Yeah, sure.
Perfect. I think there's a tendency to not want to make gut decisions that might be construed as impulsive because the responsibility, the potential downside or, negative fallout is there. And so I think it may at least be a reason that people want more data, more analysis.
100%. Yeah. I don't think any of these are bad impulses until they get to the point of like getting in our way.
Yeah.
And that's something that, the individual has to answer for himself or herself. I can't tell them when it's the right time. I can just point out what I see.
Yeah.
I can see, it seems like you've already made up your mind, and I'm wondering what's stopping you.
It's a great question to ask. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that phrasing. What other, we've talked a little bit about fear and maybe a discomfort with uncertainty. Are there other maybe emotional pitfalls that can create blind spots or lead founders or would-be high performers astray?
I think you mentioned one in a podcast episode of yours that I was watching, Ryan, which is some version of imposter syndrome or something's wrong with me, or I'm not good enough, or I have to prove myself. And I know the first part of my career, almost everything I did was in the filter of like, what will make me look successful? And I think that can affect founders too. It can cause them to grow faster than they really should. It can cause them to take outside investment. It could cause them to take like the sexy, glamorous path rather than like, what would it actually mean to me to build a business that I enjoy running?
Yeah.
And so that in a sense, it's ego gratification, but it's more like, if I do this right, it will somehow fix me.
Yeah.
And I think that can lead people to make bad decisions.
And I think that ties into what you said at the beginning where, you work with people's heads, right? And I was really fortunate. I had a business coach and a mentor at an early age when I first started my gym. This was back in 2012. And, he told us, yes, you guys all came here to find out, how to make more revenue, but what we're really doing is, fixing what's wrong with you and helping you get out of your own way. And because, and you see it all the time, like somebody wins the lottery or, somebody becomes a successful musician or successful athlete. And if they don't do the work on themselves, they're still the same version of themselves, but with more money and everything gets magnified. Right. And so, like you're calling out here, if somebody's doing something for the wrong reasons and they get there, you have the thing, but it's still you. And you still have all the issues and limiting beliefs and, behavior patterns. All the things are still there. You just have a bigger background.
And in my world, working with founders, you hear words like sacrifice and I'm doing it for my family. And there have been people who have been willing to break things along the way, relationships, especially spouse, kids, in the sense that, well, I'm doing this for you and I'm going to get a big check and that's going to fix everything. And then they get the big check and the things are broken beyond repair.
Yeah.
And how do you, I think a lot of building a successful venture of any kind is about building yourself successfully. You don't want to say no to those things along the way, to say no to your health, to say no to your relationships, because those things are really hard to get back when you lose them.
Sure. Right. One of the other things that I really liked about looking through some of your work was that you help people recognize patterns. And I think that's a really critical skill to foster. So when you're doing that, obviously that could be patterns of our own behavior. It could be business trends. It could be, patterns, for things that are happening with employees, whatever. How do you teach people to be better at pattern recognition?
Wow. I think most of the time when I'm talking about patterns, I'm talking about, patterns of thought or patterns of how you show up in the world. For example, I really want to be liked. I'm afraid of conflict. I don't want to piss Ryan off. And I had so this is an example that comes to mind just because I was just talking with him a couple of weeks ago. There's a guy I was working with who he would always use the word processing. Like, I just need to process that a little bit. I just need to process. And he would have this habit of like wanting to think about things before he did anything. And I would just, at first I was just pointing it out to him. It's like, oh, there you are processing again. And it's like, and his name is Michael. And I said, Michael, you already know what you need to do, right? He's like, yeah, but I just need to process. And it's like, is that helpful? Right. So it's like, there's the pattern. Yeah. And then the question, some patterns are incredibly helpful. There's the pattern, recognizing the pattern, and I can help with that because we're so in it, we don't see ourselves doing it. Sure. And then, is that pattern helpful? And if it's not, well, what do you want to replace it with?
I love your language and phrasing. The questions that you ask yourself and others. Are you aware that you use developmental phrasing? Have you do you study, have you studied that? And, your approach is, it's very similar. And so I'm just curious, your background, obviously with law and things like that, but have you done much studying of neuroscience and,
oh yeah,
all of that? Okay.
I have studied everything from neuroscience to, there's a lot of attraction stuff out there that I buy into a little bit and totally reject on some other levels. There's adult developmental theory. There's neuroscience. Even like quantum mechanics and multiverse and like that. I nerd out on all of that stuff.
Awesome.
Because I really do think, we are 100% living in a world that we generate. Right. We're not living in reality. We're living in the model of reality we're generating in our head, mm-hmm. and then treating it as if it's real, and it's not.
Yeah. So I'm sure you don't say that on your intro calls in those words to a lot of your clients.
You'd be surprised how early I say that, Ryan.
Oh man, that's great. So what does that process look like when you sort of help them? Like, it's almost like red pill, blue pill. Right?
Yeah. A little bit. It's my favorite movie of all time, by the way. The Matrix.
Yeah. The original one is so good.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Good. Yeah. What does that look like? Like, I guess, can you think about an individual that you've worked with that was the most reluctant or hesitant to, I don't want to say accept that, but, grasp it and kind of take control of their own reality? And if so, what did that look like? Not like, who are they? And,
yeah. Maybe just because it's top of mind and I just talked with him this morning. I have a client who is just super overachiever. He has built a company that he will, when he does sell it, he'll probably sell it for somewhere between $350 and $400 million.
Wow.
And he has a lot of patterns that have been really helpful and really exhausting. Mm-hmm. He's a very high achiever. He's very detail oriented. He's very driven. He's very direct. That can turn into micromanagement and an overactive temper and all of these things. And we've we've done a lot of looking at all of them, all of those patterns. And I'm getting him to to just experiment with, like, what if you let go of this? What if you let go of that? Just a little bit at a time, because he's, his system, and a lot of this is neurological and biological. It's like a 5-alarm fire all the time. Like, he is incredibly hypervigilant, right?
Yeah.
And so to get someone in a place where they can feel safe, feeling safe, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
right? It's like, I'm worried because I'm not worried, like that's,
yep.
And that is a process. Absolutely. And a lot of entrepreneurs are people who, I've worked with some people who've come from really hard circumstances, people with abuse in their families, alcoholism in their families, addiction in their history. And a lot of it's coming from a place of, what do I not want to feel? Yep. And what's my strategy for not feeling it?
Yep.
And the first step out of that is to let yourself feel it just a little bit. Like, how do you get, and some of this is much better done in therapy than, if someone has significant trauma in their background,
sure.
They already are working with a therapist when we start working together.
Right.
But, how do you let go of the things that have been a lifeline for you when you no longer actually need them?
Right.
That's the journey.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's incredibly deep work. It's scary, but as you know, it's the most rewarding that you can do. And
oh yeah,
man, when you can start to make progress in those areas, just, light bulbs and doors open and just.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question, Ryan? Because I'm really curious.
Yeah.
Like, when you're working with someone who's like a high achiever, let's say it's, they have some big athletic goal. They want to, they want to run an ultra, or they want, I don't know. You can make up your own story or give me a specific story.
Sure.
One thing that I run into is people have these unproductive perspectives and habits, and they're around overachievement and overstriving and whatever. Mm-hmm. And one of the reasons I see that they're afraid to let go of them is I've heard so many people use these words. It's like, if I do that, I'll lose my edge. Mm-hmm. Is that something that you've dealt with, and how have you dealt with it?
I think the way you phrased something a minute ago is very applicable here, right? Where, like, that edge that the person is talking about is in many instances something that they've utilized to their advantage in the past. Mm-hmm. And man, there's like 3 different lessons that I would teach somebody here that I think would help, like, a multi-pronged approach, right? And I think one of them, and this kind of ties into the example you were given with that person that's hyper vigilant and always on, is learning how to like flip the switch. Like, when you talk about athletes going into a performance setting, right? Like, that's a common phrase, like flip the switch and turn it on, right?
Yeah.
Well, one of the most important things for individuals to learn is how to turn it off. And I'll give you an example. I do a lot of work with law enforcement, firefighters, first responders.
Yeah.
And everybody wants to point to Navy SEALs as sort of the pinnacle of, I will say, badassery or whatever, right? And I'm not taking anything away from them, like from a tactics and skill set, they are the pinnacle.
Yeah.
But when you look at mission frequency, they may go on one mission a night. They do the thing, they come home, they're done. And there's going to be a lot of planning and they maybe maybe they go out on another one in a night or 2 nights or 3 nights, whatever. Well, when you work with firefighters, when you talk to police officers or, SWAT or, medics, they don't have a shift where they're doing less than, 10, 20 calls, per shift. So this frequency of like up and then down,
right.
up and then down. And the problem that a lot of those run into is like they go up and then they try to stay up the whole time.
Yeah. And I would think that, whether it's, firefighter, I mean, I've seen some of the stats, like most fire alarms are false alarms, right? And most police experiences are relatively routine. So you've got to be like prepared for the worst, but typically it's, not that big a deal.
Right. And so, there's some where like, maybe you get the call on the radio and it's a 5-minute drive or a 10-minute drive or whatever the response time is. And in that interval, we can be doing things like breath work or whatever that, is at least controlling the adrenaline rush. So anyway, like that's one of the 3 aspects is learning how to turn it on and turn it off.
Yeah.
Right? And so, for somebody who has this fear of losing their edge, the more you learn how to turn it on, the less you worry about never finding it again.
Right. I can access it when I need it.
Yes. And so sort of like you said earlier, we're going to look for those little moments where you could let go, but also those little moments where you can turn it on. And so like, for me, like, and for your guy that just started doing workouts again, like when you go into the gym, like that's a great opportunity to flip that switch and go into a different version of you, right? Like can you find that edge in your workout? And so, again, we're still kind of talking about turning it on, turning it off. I think one of the other areas that I would look at is it sort of sounded like somebody was, at least the way you phrased the question made me think of individuals who buy into that fallacy that like more is more.
Yes.
And I love coaches and authors that are just blunt. I think it's because I tend to be verbose and I'm like, man, I wish I could get my point across in one statement like that. So there's a great strength coach named Dan John, and he has a line. He says, the goal is to make sure that the goal remains the goal.
Yeah.
And he's like, look, he's from the track and field world. And he says, if you come to me and you're a shot putter and we go through this 12-week, weight training cycle, at the end of the 12 weeks, if your squat went from 375 to 450, but you don't throw the shot further,
right?
What are we doing?
Right.
Right. And I've actually had this conversation recently with an athlete of mine, who sort of fits your question perfectly because and this is so this is prong 2 and prong 3 of my answer. So I'm kind of leaving these in, but so prong 2 is more isn't always better, right? Make sure the goal stays the goal. And then part 3 is avoid what we would call toxic goals. And so this is another one back to that original mentor of mine that taught me this. There are 3 C's of toxic goals: compete, compare, and copy. And so many times when you see these folks that think, well, I have to be doing more. Why? Well, because that CEO is doing this, or that athlete is doing this, or I saw this on social media, or blah, 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 blah. And so, first of all, we don't even know if that's like, we have an incomplete picture of what everybody else is doing. Right.
Right.
So you have
through the rose colored glasses of social media, right?
and even if it's not on social, I mean, we always have a less than full perception of what others are doing. And therefore it's distorted, right? Because we'll fill in the rest.
Right.
So we have a distorted perception from the get-go that leads to distorted actions, distorted results, right? Somebody tries to replicate my workout program, or, they see what David Goggins does and they try to do that. And like, well, I don't look like him. I'm not famous like him. What am I doing wrong?
Right.
So we internalize that and becomes distorted self-esteem. And so that whole cycle of distortion and the toxic goals. And again, we kind of tie that back into that's why in a lot of cases, people feel like more is better, or we need to be doing more because we got to keep up with that person, right? So now we're comparing and we're competing with them.
Right.
A lot of business models are built on copying what we think other people are doing.
Yeah.
You know, we see a part of it, but we don't see their P&Ls. We don't see their finances. We might copy their business only to find out that it's not a profitable model.
Right.
So I would have all parts of that conversation with the individual and see if we can't really uncover why that feeling is there. And then, you know, we sort of come back to, okay, the goal isn't to see how much you can do. The goal is to get better at the thing, right? Get better at running ultra marathons, or get better at throwing the shot put, or whatever. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a long-winded answer, but hopefully it.
No, I love that, and it resonates. And I think one of the hardest questions for people to answer is, what do you want? Yeah. Like, they can give you the superficial answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to sell a company worth this. I want to, you know, I want to hit my personal best in this, right? Mm-hmm. But then why? Why do you want that? What is that going to give you?
And so again, same business coach. It's now 13 years ago.
Wow.
I learned that. So we would call that like a level 1 answer. Mm-hmm. And he would ask those same questions. Why? What's so great about that? What does that do for you? How does that change your life? How's your life different? Yeah. When? And you take that down, you ask those follow-up questions, 7 layers, like peeling.
7. I've heard 5. Okay.
So our group was actually called 5, 6, 7. And that's because we were trying to operate at 5, 6, 7, 1 through 4 being more of like the superficial psychological needs. But when you start to get into like 5, 6, 7, now you're starting to get into things like fulfillment and purpose and legacy. And when you start having conversations with people around those topics, as a coach, you have your hooks in them, right? So like again, I'll go back to like when I had the gym, we would do that question with every potential new member. And so now, like, let's say, Jeff, you're a member and you tell me, you know, hey, you want to lose 20 pounds. Okay. What's so great about that? Well, I'll have more energy. Okay, cool. How's your life different with more energy? Well, I'll be able to play with my grandson. Oh, and why is that important to you? Well, blah, 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 right? And you can start to see how losing pant sizes or losing a number on the scale is very superficial. And so if that's where our conversation stopped, if you're dragging ass one day in a workout and I come up to you and I'm like, hey, Jeff, I thought you wanted to wear smaller pants. I'm not really going to get much different out of you.
Like, to hell with you, Ryan, I'll get fat pants, right?
But if I come up to you and I say, Jeff, I thought you wanted to, have more energy so you can play with your grandson and set a great example and create core memories with him. And now I'm getting something like I will get a different output from you by having that conversation. Because I'm talking about the things that really matter to you.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And I love some of the things that you talked about is what really matters to people. And one of the things that I've noticed both for myself and for the people that I've worked with is there is something about, I actually want to show up in the world as myself. And I want to be loved for that. Like, I want to show up with this other person. And this is not, romantic love. This is just like, hey, I want to be real with you and you be real with me. And we're going to communicate on a level that most people never do.
Yep.
And there's something that's just so freeing about that. I mean, you can talk about money and legacy and purpose and all that. Purpose to me is just like, what's that thing that I want to create just because I want to create it?
Yeah. So it's funny when you talk about having that level or depth of conversation. I think that's why, at least in my friend group, so many of us hate like standard social outings.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
like this, it's the same superficial, meaningless conversations. Like,
Right.
I don't care about the weather. I don't care about, whatever.
Yeah.
I want to know what makes you tick. I want to know what gives you purpose and like the things that you want to create. Like I could talk to you about that for hours and never get tired.
Yeah.
If we're sitting there and somebody's like talking about the weather or, the normal stuff. So, but it's funny. I'm glad you brought that up. With the like being more of yourselves. That's actually, I was going to ask you this at the very end, but I'll ask you now since you brought it up. I'd love it if you could lay out a challenge for our listeners, maybe a 30-day experiment.
Oh, wow.
To be more of themselves, whether it's at home or at work or with their friends. But like if somebody heard that and they're like, man, I want more of that.
Uh-huh.
How can they move in that direction?
Wow. What a great idea. I love this. And the thing that comes to mind, it goes back to really early in my coaching days when I was getting certified as a coach and going through lots of coaching conversations. And I noticed that there was this feeling that would come up in me, where there would be something that would seem true to me, that I would want to say to you, Ryan, like something I've noticed, something I'm wondering about. And I would get this tightness in my stomach because I was afraid to say it. Mm-hmm. And so for me, like a 30-day challenge for someone watching this is notice what I don't want to say, what I'm afraid to say. And just once a day for 30 days, say it and see what happens.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's good.
And I will tell you, it has started so many great conversations. Mm-hmm. And it's not like, you're not doing this from a place of anger. You're not right. like really pissed off and like, I'll tell them. No, it's just like, what's something that just feels honestly true that you can put out into the world and see what happens. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it. So we'll lay that challenge out, and anybody that does it, please report back. Shoot me a message, whether it's on social or email me, ryan@ryanmunsey.com, and let me know how that goes. And obviously, Jeff, if I get any feedback, I'll share it with you.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Awesome. What legacy do you hope that your process leaves with the folks that you work with?
I see people struggle with two things. One, I think they make things way harder than they need to be. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that is just your own kind of, I've got to process this. I've got to, think about it. I don't know what to do. And two, I think people are thinking way too small. Mm. I mean, I literally, one of the things that I do when I'm starting a relationship with a client is, we'll take 2 days and, we'll do some kind of retreat together. We will just spend 2 days together doing as little as possible. And every client comes out of it with something different that's very specific. But those two things were actually the insights of one of my clients going through this 2 days together was, I'm way too hard on myself, mm-hmm. and I think way too small.
Yeah.
And I think if I can create a world where people actually see what's possible and do it, wow, that would feel amazing. Because I see so many people fall to, and it doesn't have to be entrepreneurs, it can be anyone. I call it the curse of good enough. Mm-hmm. It's like, I've got a good job, I'm making a good living, I'm on track to get my kids through college or save for retirement or whatever. Why would I risk that? It goes back to your this, as our spread of influence gets bigger, mm-hmm. we're less and less willing mm-hmm. to take the risk. And the cost of that is, depression, listlessness, lifelessness. We're made to create. And I think that's true our entire lives. I don't think that stops at 40 or whatever arbitrary age you want to set on. It's not like, I mean, I remember growing up, I thought, when I get to this stage, well, then I'll be married and I'll have kids and things will be set. Right?
Right.
It's like, no, there's that point never comes.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that answer. So Jeff, how do you, where do your clients find you? I'm just curious.
Yeah. I mean, it can be from seeing a conversation like this. It can be, I post a lot on LinkedIn. I have a YouTube channel. And a lot of them come to me because they know someone who's worked with me. So a lot of my business is referral. Yeah, it's a combination of all of that. Mostly, I think to reach out to someone and want to work on the stuff that I work on, it takes a fair amount of self-awareness and courage. And the thing that I hear the most from people is, I'm not ready. I'm too overwhelmed. I'm too busy. And I really hope this tool Pick Now helps them to get through that and then say, oh, wait, I can manage my calendar. I can create some space. And there are these things that I've been avoiding. And I really want to take a look at them. I mean, that's the perfect situation for me.
Gotcha. Let our listeners know where they can find more of you. Website, LinkedIn, YouTube, you got podcast.
Yeah. Well, the podcast we've done some of the preliminary work. I've done the first episode. We got some guests lined up, but it's probably going to be 2-3 months. I mean, you've been through this process, Ryan. It's going to take a little bit of time before they go out live in the world, but definitely watch for the podcast. I'll announce it on LinkedIn and my website and all the places. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. I have a YouTube channel called, it's at Creating Extraordinary Futures. You can always send an email to me, jeff@jmunn.com. I love having conversations like this. I think, love getting on with folks who are in the same space as I am, even though we're working with different people, Ryan. I think we're working in a lot of the same ways. So thank you for that. Yeah. There's a link through my website and probably if we email, I think there's a link in my signature line. You can sign up for my email list and hear stuff from me every week if you really want to stay in touch with what I'm up to.
Okay, great. Yeah. I'll make it as easy as possible for listeners. We'll grab all those links. They'll be in the description of wherever you're listening to this, whether it's Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, whatever. So,
yeah.
Jeff, final question for all of our guests. Your number one tip for somebody who wants to be more consistent?
Well, I was instinctively going to say Pick Now. and I do think one of the great things about that tool is it develops momentum and consistency through using it. Like every day, what's something you've been putting off? Do it. And I would say one of the things like whether it's a workout or I want to develop a meditation habit or something like that, start small. Meditate 1 minute a day. Like we think we like design these ideal routines and then we like think, oh, well, tomorrow I'm going to go to the gym and then I'm going to journal and then I'm going to do this and then I'm going to do that. And then we fail day one and then we beat ourselves up. It's like, no, the psychology of this and the biology of this. It's like, get the small wins, get in the habit of the small wins and then make the small wins bigger over time. And within a month, within a year, you won't even recognize yourself.
I love that answer. And I'm just kind of nodding my head because that's so true. I've seen it for me. I've seen it for so many other people. And Jeff, this has been an awesome conversation. Thanks for hanging out with us today on the Move the Chains podcast.
Yeah, I love it, man.
Thanks for being here. If you dig this episode, share it with somebody you know who will benefit from what Jeff and I are talking about. And as always, thanks for being here. We'll see you on the next one.